So this webinar, we're going to be talking about how AI is changing customer onboarding and success. If you are just born today, AI means artificial intelligence. I think this has been a common acronym thrown around in the last year or so, but it truly is exciting to see how technology continues to evolve our business processes and our relationships. And so Sabina and I will be talking about that. I'm going to give Sabina a chance to introduce herself, and then I might add a thing or two, because Sabina and I have known each other for quite a while. Welcome, Sabina.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me today. I'm Sabina. I am based in Orange County, Southern California, and I am the proud mom to those two little kids on the bottom there, a fourth grader and a first grader. I am the managing director at Growth Molecules. We are a customer success consulting and advisory firm who also have our hands also in technical implementations for customer success applications. I was a former global leader. I managed a team at MavenLink, now known as Cantata, grew it from 4 people to 104 people, and the company revenue from 14 million to 100 million in acquisition. So managed teams owning commercials like renewals and expansions, as well as technical support, onboarding, and all the fun things for customer loyalty and celebrating their wins. Happy to be here. I'm also passionate about being a mom in technology and try to lift up others who are also doing the what was unthinkable, right? Being the leaders who get to help nurture the voices of women in this space, and excited to share that passion with others.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As a father of 4 girls, that means the world to me. I want their life to be as successful as mine, and individuals like you doing what you're doing matters a lot. And Sabina didn't mention this, but even though she's from Orange County, California, where there is no snow or mountains, she likes to ski. When I met Sabina, it was probably winter time of last year at an event, and she was headed up to Deer Valley right after the event to spend some time on the slopes.
Got to get together next time.
Cool. Yeah, we will. So my name's Peter. I'm the founder of GUIDEcx. I started GUIDEcx to solve one of my biggest frustrations, and that was not being kept on the same page when someone sold me a product, good, or service, in my personal life and in my professional life. Like, going through the process of, getting approved for a mortgage. Right? It's so frustrating not to be kept on the same page as to when the appraiser is coming, whether or not we're approved or not. All the way to buying an ERP solution for my previous company, going through this robust workflow and not knowing who's responsible for what. So GUIDEcx was started to solve that problem. We'll talk about that more in a minute. I'm one of 5 boys. My dad was a home builder. He was an entrepreneur. He took a lot of risks in his life. Phenomenal parent. My mom was a school teacher. And I was raised by the best, and I'm super thankful for them and all their hard work. And now I'm the father of 4 girls, and I'm going to dance recitals for the first time, gymnastics. My head is spinning, but my oldest is 11, my youngest is 4, and so I'm still in the honeymoon stage, and I understand it might get a little bit harder. All right, well, let's get started. We wanted to just give some contextual understanding of who we are, what companies we represent, and this isn't meant to be a commercial, more to just give you a broad understanding of where our contextual comments are coming from. So GUIDEcx, we really focus on after the sale and before the customer success lifecycle, kind of this handoff zone. I call it the danger zone. I would say we de-risk the riskiest part of the customer experience, which is that onboarding, that implementation stage. Lots of times there's a lot of change management that has to occur for customers to get value out of a product, good, or a service. And so we focus on just helping our customers floor their customers with an amazing customer experience after the sale. We fit when implementations are dependent on external parties, including your customers and partners. And so if there's a lot of different parties involved that have to do things, we excel when the project durations are longer than, normally 1 week or 2 weeks, and maybe shorter than a year. When customer stakeholders need visibility into projects, this is really important. This is a feature that we offer. It's kind of a transparent customer-facing portal where unrelated parties can all see each other and collaborate seamlessly. And then quick insights to improve optimization, right? As most companies do a really good job handling the internal things that need to occur to, get a customer up and running. But the external things that they need to hold customers accountable to, oftentimes you lose a lot of visibility there. And so our product will help you understand, hey, every time you ask your customer or a third party or a partner to do X, 90% of the time they don't do it within the SLA, or that task is overdue. And so we'll help you understand those bottlenecks. And of course, we white label our product, put your name on lights, and we also have some amazing PSA features, resource management, time tracking, to help you use your resources and employees more efficiently. So with that being said, I'll let Sabina kind of talk about growth molecules for a minute.
So where Pete mentioned the importance of getting teams up and lifted before customer success takes over, the area that we're passionate about at Growth Molecules is in the customer success model, and the importance of not being in a spot where as a CSM, you're now suddenly already playing catch up because their implementation wasn't strong. So with that, our mission is to help companies protect and grow revenue. And we do that in 3 ways. We typically will go in and understand what's going on before we make any recommendations. We'll prescribe a solution. And where a lot of other firms may stop at that, we take it the extra mile and actually help you execute, whether that's hands-on keyboard, fractional leadership. We really want to make sure that it's not thoughtware. At Growth Molecules, we've all been global corporate leaders. We started off as CSMs, we were support reps, we were directors, VPs, we're on boards, all that. So we've been in our teams and our customers' shoes, and that really typically resonates. Next slide, please.
Awesome.
The way that we organize ourselves is in the 3 practice areas. So we have a robust academy where we are accredited by the Customer Success Association and University of San Francisco, where we're doing live corporate education that are completely free from slide decks. This is really helpful for people who may be seasoned CS veterans, or perhaps they're leaders for the first time, or perhaps where they're brand new to the role. And either way, continual learning is something that we're about because that helps us grow. We also have traditional customer consulting and strategic advisory, where our biggest thing that we offer in terms of volume and frequency that is asked of us is diagnostic assessments. People want us to understand, validate where they are today, help them understand where they need to go. And that may very well include even the pre-sale process at the very end and how that transitions all the way through a customer journey, which is why we also help with customer journey mapping. And then lastly, tech services. We are technical implementation partners with all the major customer success platforms. And we are also honored to get to be partners of GUIDEcx as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we love being partners with Growth Molecules. And I've talked to a number of customers of Growth Molecules, and the team is amazing. You guys do a phenomenal job. I always tell people, even Tiger Woods needs a swing coach. And Growth Molecules is that proverbial swing coach for so many organizations. And they make a huge difference. And you guys have a ton of knowledge and wisdom that I'm excited for you all to share today. So we're going to ask for engagement during this webinar. So don't just sit back and watch your screen. We have some poll questions. We're going to ask you to chat in and provide feedback on some of the discussion points. But we'd like you to answer this poll question. Do you have a digital onboarding strategy in place? While you're answering, I want to ask Sabina to kind of define onboarding. I know sometimes that word is confused with a lot of different motions and processes. There's a lot of other words that mean the same thing, but maybe you can kind of expound on that, Sabina.
Yeah, absolutely. So thinking about onboarding, a lot of synonyms are often referenced. Thinking about maybe implementation, or a company might call it activation, configuration, data migration. That's typically where these types of activities are occurring to get a new buyer acclimated and using a platform. And typically through the context of this today, we're primarily talking about B2B SaaS. There's some fringe cases, of course, there, or B2B to C SaaS, software as a service. But thinking about the idea that we have these other motions like training and support, and all these things are all firing together to get the customer live as fast as possible. And so this phase of getting them from signing a contract to using and loving your system is what we're talking about with onboarding.
Awesome. Yeah, like I like to kind of boil it down to just, it's where first impressions happen. Lots of times you win the trust of a customer in that first interaction. And I subscribe to the thought that you can win trust in a very, very short amount of time if you come across as extremely professional. I shared an example not too long ago of, I got to check off one of my bucket list items of hiking Machu Picchu, kind of that 4-day Inca trail. And I was super nervous. I didn't know what I was going to eat. I didn't know what the hike would be like. I kind of read some things online, but we landed in Cusco, which is kind of a town at 11,000 feet to acclimatize. And our Sherpas literally met us off the plane, and they provided directions. They provided us maps. They brought us to their homes there in Cusco, and they had like an hour presentation for us. And I immediately trusted it. I trusted the process, and they won my loyalty there in that first moment. And so I think as you kind of convert to kind of the B2B world and how you deal with your customers and how you affect your first impressions with them, please know, like when you win that trust, you not only win the ability to teach and to improve their lives, you also win the ability for you to fail and have them still trust that you're going to overcome, right? And so that first impression matters so much. Let's get to some of our discussion points. The results really quick. 75% of the respondents said yes, it needs to be optimized. Awesome. We can all improve. I'm glad you all are humble enough to know that there's room for improvement. Because 0% said yes, it's working well. So you are all in the right place. Thank you for being here. We can help. All right, let's go to our first question. I think, Sabina, this is a question you jotted down for me, right?
Yeah, I would love for you to tackle this one. I think one thing too is the analogy that you gave. First of all, I've always wanted to be a Machu Picchu hike completion person. I wouldn't explain that very well, but the idea that it's one of the 7 heritage world sites, I think, is really cool. So kudos. But the idea that onboarding and doing it really well and that customer thrillment isn't a new concept. We've had that for years, right? I mean, I think starting in the 50s, people started to put 2 and 2 together, look at consumer behavior and how that affects purchase decisions and loyalty decisions. But what's different now is this ability and general availability of digital and AI capability. And how do we balance that with efficiency and scale, with also being human first and having that, I trust this person, I have my Sherpa. So in that context, like what's the balance there between custom onboarding and being customer centric and really focusing on them versus more of a digital AI? I had someone tell me today, I don't like bots, I want a human. And I'm like, well, really though? Like, I don't want to be on hold for 2 hours, right? Getting a human on the phone. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, so there's a post that Nick Mehta added a while back on LinkedIn that's always resonated with me. Nick's the CEO of Gangsite, one of our partners as well, and I understand you guys work with Gangsite a lot. And he talked a lot about the benefits of being prescriptive, which I kind of think about. If you're prescriptive in your onboarding process, you're kind of custom and operational all at the same time. Like you're prescriptive to who the customer is, and hopefully you're able to kind of identify like what's your ICP, what are the differences amongst your customers within that ICP, and perhaps there's the opportunity to be prescriptive in those differences. So you have different paths that you might follow. And it's been said that if you have a custom process, you'll have a customer for life. I love that saying. But Nick kind of talked about the downfalls of not being prescriptive. If you're always too custom, then what'll happen is 4 things: the back and forth that you have with your customers, because you're following a very variable process, will extend and increase your time to value exponentially, which we all know puts the customer at risk, especially if you're signing a 1-year deal with them and it takes you 6 months to launch your product, good, or service. That renewal is going to be next to impossible to get. The second thing he talks about is, every client uses you a little differently. If you're always custom at the very start, then clients are going to kind of use you in different ways, and it's important for you to be the doctor that's prescribing the treatment. And the third thing is, it's hard to ramp new teammates in your CS or professional services org, because they're always doing things differently with every single customer. And so being prescriptive is going to help them get up to speed more, have them be more confident. So that was an interesting one, like an internal benefit. And then the fourth one was interesting. Since clients use you differently, they can't always use new functionality that you develop. So the more prescriptive you are, the more you're going to funnel and kind of herd your clients down a similar path. And I'm not saying that they should all be herded down the same path. There can be different paths. But I think the important lesson here is that when you're talking about a healthy balance between a custom client onboarding experience and an operational experience, you can kind of skate both lines by creating multiple paths that are prescriptive so that you can experience the benefits of being prescriptive. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really thoughtful. I wrote down what you said, actually. If you can create this customer experience, you have a customer for life. And oftentimes our customers will say to us, well, we've been giving white glove platinum service to all of our customers. We're a startup. We've hit several million in revenue, or 25 million in revenue beyond. And this is what we've done to get where we are today. But the reality of it is the economy has changed. That was a world where people were able to hire CSMs and throw bodies at a situation where that's not scalable, that's not efficient. And we've learned that. We're now all right sizing in the tech industry. And the way to overcome that then is where these two roads intersect, is this onboarding amazing customer experience that we're giving, but then how do we have scalability and efficiency to yield that growth that's durable? And the thought process there of customer journey mapping. And even though they're your white glove, highest level volume ARR customers, it doesn't necessarily mean that they need weekly touch points with a live phone call. They actually prefer, studies have shown, they actually prefer to have less touch frequently and have it be more meaningful, be more quality. And so we know when internal teams are using the tool stacks that they're supposed to effectively, they'll save about 7 hours a week on the administrative, tedious work that precludes them from having those more quality, meaningful interactions. And then the reverse is true. Your smallest customers don't necessarily need to be the ones that are getting that digital touch either. Like, there's a way to find that happy balance. And so I think some of the things you're talking about is like, you can still achieve this customer for life mentality that's human first, that really meets the customer where they are in a way that doesn't also mean you need to hire 10 more CSMs to get there. There's all kinds of programs, and we get to help our customers with that.
Yeah, such great points. I think a lot of that personality, I guess that custom kind of touch that you apply to your journey mapping can be enhanced by AI. One of the things that happens in our tool, I think the most innovative thing I've seen of one of our customers do with our kind of connection to OpenAI is the customer will choose their language at the start of the process, and then ChatGPT will go in and change all the call to actions in our tool into that corresponding language. And that makes it more custom, more comfortable, more applicable to the users that they're catering to. I just thought, wow, like I would have never thought of that. It's cool when your customers think of things that you'd never even think of.
And to qualify, you don't mean a computer programming code language, you mean human language.
Yeah. And so and there's so many other ways to enhance that human connection with AI. But the important thing is the AI needs contextual understanding of who the customer is, and that's your job to give that. But this is like me talking about one of my kids. I can speak for hours on this concept. And so please chime in with your comments. If you have any additional questions, we'll go to the next one. I have a question for Sabina. Oftentimes there's a customer champion. What are some best practices to help them involve resources and team members on their side? I always say that it's the hardest thing to do is to manage people you don't manage, and to help them project manage on their side. How do you skate that?
And I think the reason this is important, right, is that adoption piece, right? I think the way that I think it's Gartner calls it, the trough of disillusionment. I like, the way that you guys think of it in that slope of enlightenment, making it positive, glass half full, right? But the concept there that we have a limited time to make an impact, and who bought the software, the economic buyer, the decision maker, may be different than the lead for the onboarding, which also is likely different than the end users. Yeah. And that's where that concept of multi-threading is huge. And then there's typically the champion that is owning it post-sale on the client side. We want them to be the hero because they're the ones who went to get budget. They're the ones who made this big, exciting announcement and is trying to drive change management internally, which is a whole host of challenges in and of itself sometimes. So how do we help them become the hero? And that's getting their peer buy-in. That's getting their multi-level buy-in as well. And so some ways that we can enable them and help them by doing that is essentially thinking about making sure that those cross-functional teams know the why, and even bringing them into that decision-making as it's happening, not necessarily doing the total democracy route, but letting them know, like, we're going down the path to solve this business problem. The tool should become irrelevant, right? There's especially like, guys, if you're white labeling things, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's what is the business outcome? What is this going to mean for our business? So that's the first thing. And then, how the second step of that, how is it going to help them? So an example might be, you're going to create, I think about customer success platforms. You're going to create customer health scoring and predictability. And if an AE, account executive in sales, is responsible for expansion, as they are in about 50% of organizations, they are certainly not going to want to walk in on a client escalation situation and start talking about a new feature and trying to upsell or cross-sell them. It's kind of like, hey, read the room, dude. Well, if they don't have the tools or the telemetry data to do that, like, you can't fault them for that. So by having this customer success application to create that customer 360 or the view that gives them the full scope helps them be better. So by talking to my peers across the aisle, so to speak, in sales, this is why this is important. This is why I need you to help. The other thing is making sure then, once this onboarding has happened or as it's happening, keeping them up to speed. Don't give them too much knowledge, but give them enough that they feel important, included, and again, understand the why. The way to do that in a really easy way, if it's not, in a daily L2 stand up, perhaps it's leveraging connectors and again, letting the digital touch, letting the data do the work for you. I know the concept of omni-channel engagement, or having something as simple as a Slack connector, where your project management, your onboarding application like GUIDEcx is pinging your internal team members. We leverage something similar. I need to know quickly in real time across the multiple projects that my team is delivering for our customers what's going on without having to even necessarily go into the project and go in to understand all the nitty-gritty. I just need the top line. Another one, when you're thinking about engaging teams cross-functionally, it might be your own team. One thing that I've done really well, or that I've seen work really well, is gamification, getting them excited about the transformation. And again, what's in it for them and rewarding them for that behavior. I like to pick, when I'm doing software implementations as a leader, I like to identify some of my top performers who are typically reliable, they're positive, they're consistent, and they have the attention to detail and focus. So I want them to come in and help be my early adopters. I'll actually bring them into user acceptance testing, some of the final stages of configuration, and really get their opinion as the boots on the ground, the feet on the street. So I think I know it, but the reality of it is I can't really appreciate where they are at that moment in time in their career and that application. So once they've drank the Kool-Aid, given us the feedback, we've adjusted and tweaked, then there's this peer-led growth. Word gets out. Now all the other team members want to use it like them, want to be successful like them, and you'll typically have greater adoption.
Yeah. So I wrote down some notes, all amazing comments. And one is parties involved, like know who the people are. I just summarized what Sabina said. One of the cool things that you can use technology to operationalize that. Like with GUIDEcx, you can identify like what personas you require on the customer side and kind of separate your deliverables and tasks by those personas. And so you can help your power user on the customer side know that, hey, we need someone who's like an engineer, and we need someone who understands DNS settings in your email. And then we need a trainer on your side. And then you can help divvy up the responsibilities so that it can make it easier for them to manage on their side. I would say persona identification in the onboarding process is extremely important, because if you don't do that, you depend on the power user to do all that for you. And that's too much. You need to help them manage their people and kind of hold their hand in that process. And Second thing you talked about is the handoff. I think that's extremely important. Once again, you could use technology to operationalize that with we have kind of 2 integrations with 2 CS products, Turn Zero and Gangsite, where you can pass the onboarding health score of GUIDEcx into those client success platforms that then define that journey. So if someone was very low engaged, low health score on the onboarding side, then they should have a different journey on the customer success tool than maybe someone that's very highly engaged. I share an example of my daughter who was kind of born not breathing. She's fine now, but she had to go directly to the NICU because they gave her an AppGuard score of like 3. And they give babies AppGuard scores, like onboarding health scores, not to take a very like reverent human body experience and kind of apply it to the business world. But it's like, do you give your customers an AppGuard score? That should define that short-term care that then is applied to the customer going forward. You hit on transparency and communications. It's awesome. Like I think a transparent process builds trust. Like when they know you're doing things for them, that helps. Like when I see the food being cooked, I'm not asking when it's going to be ready. I can kind of see that, okay, there's things happening, even though they're not emailing me or they're not calling me. It instills confidence. And then gamification. I think people are competitors by nature. So awesome points. We'll skip to the next. Let me share my screen again, and we'll skip to the next question for the sake of time. And this question's for the audience. So I'll put it up here. There you go. Activation rates. So I'd like, you could raise your hand if we do this correctly in Zoom. If you raise your hand, we can actually enable the permission for you to speak to Sabina and I. If we have a brave soul out in the audience, we'd like to pose a question of how does time to value affect your activation rate? So basically affect adoption. Does a short time to value enable a more engaged customer? We'd love any thoughts or feedback on that question. If we don't, we can speak for you if you just like to chat in the comments here. I'm going to share some data until someone raises their hand. So one of my favorite people to follow on social media is Jason Lumpkin. He just posts a lot of interesting blogs and stats. He talked a lot about this. He says activation rates is one of the 3 most important metrics in SaaS that you can measure. And oftentimes it isn't measured. And it's always worse than we think it is. That's a point he thinks of. He says 90% or more of your customers need to activate in the shortest practical time. And he goes and talks about kind of the differences of PLG companies and where in other products where there's a real business process change that requires a robust implementation. Let's see if we have any hand raisers. No brave souls out in the audience. Okay, maybe it looks like we might be having some technical difficulty with enabling people to speak. So I'll keep on going on this topic. We also did a study. So GUIDEcx runs thousands of projects through its tool every month. And one of the things we do is we kind of gather some big data study projects. And we recently did a study of over 200,000 projects in our tool, and we identified like which ones were the most successful. And one of the themes that we noticed was we have the ability to project and forecast an end date of a project based on the velocity of the project itself. And so when you start a project in GUIDEcx, you have a planned end date. And that basically is kind of stringing together the dependency, duration, and capacity logic. And then if you end up going slower than normal, you kind of have some challenges that might extend your actual end date past your original plan end date. And so you're running late. And so customers that had this feature turned on, because you could turn this on and off, and were notified when they were running late and then caught up, we basically looked at those projects, and customers that came in on time with their original time to value, like original expected time to launch their project, they had a 99+% logo retention rate after 1 year. And so we took 16 customers in that silo, and then we kind of did a study with those projects that those customers ran. And so time to value matters immensely. I see we might have, looks like Amelia joined us. She's muted. Are we able to unmute her, Danny, or is that possible?
Yeah, I just tried.
I am here.
Oh,
hi, everyone.
Technology works. First time caller, long time listener, Amelia calling in.
Yeah, hi, everyone.
Hello. Yeah, welcome. I would love to hear your comments on this, Amelia.
You know what? Do you mind repeating that one more time?
So how does time to value affect activation rates? So, do customers adopt at a greater degree when they're onboarded or implemented within a shorter time to value?
Yeah, absolutely. So it does affect time to value, because if you don't see value quickly, you can lose a customer from a psychological or from psychology perspective. It's very clear that if I have a poor onboarding at the beginning, the chances of renewal drop significantly. And so the time to value, if I'm not seeing 1 to 3 things that I see value or pain points alleviated, it's very hard to change that relationship. You keep remembering, wow, I just made a huge investment, team, money, resources, technology, and I'm expecting a lot. And if I don't see that, then it's very hard to go back to my boss. I no longer look like a hero. I look like I wasted a company's money. So it's critical.
Awesome. Wonderful thoughts. Thank you so much, Amelia, for being brave enough to chime in. And then we have Amber from chat talking about time to value is a beast to cross that bridge. And internally, you want them to launch an initiative ASAP as the value is depleting if they don't. I think one other thing I'd add here is, this idea about measuring time to value, if it's that important, we all agree it is, then we should be measuring like stage to stage, milestone to milestone. Be analytical about your process. And if it's a prescriptive process and fairly repetitive, doesn't have to be 100% repetitive, then you have the opportunity to optimize, measure, and improve. Sabina, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, the concept of measuring time to first value, it's an interesting one. My husband also works on tech. He's a product leader in B2B SaaS and at an AI company. And over the years, the different product roles he's had at different companies, the measurement of time to first value from a product perspective is something that matters to them, because of course we talk about in my customer success world about customer journey mapping. They think about it in user journey mapping. And they of course care about the customer success piece, but not as much as I'd like, of course. I give them a hard time at dinner for that. But the thought process there is they're continually looking at how to make the user interface, the experience for customers easier. And how do they make it where there's tooltips and app, and maybe there's intercom that pops up and asks them just a simple thumbs up or thumbs down, and using that data and measuring it. Well, the key thing is though, it's so different from company to company. And so people have asked us as a firm, how should we measure time to first value? And that's going to change significantly. And so the thing I really like to do is really challenge our customers. So usually CCOs, CROs, we challenge them to understand, are they capturing what matters to the customer up front? So are they building a success plan and co-creating a mutual action plan with customers that they're capturing literally what is the data? What is the driver that's going to move for them? And at Maven Link, it was a professional services automation tool with which I worked. And we captured up front what kind of an increase in billable utilization the client is desiring to achieve, and a couple other key metrics as well. And so for our business and for our customers, we were able to say, okay, your goal is to increase by 5% by the end of this year. We would regularly revisit that, and we would actually document it on a mutual action plan. And they commit to us, I'm going to participate in their proper onboarding and training. I'll drive internal adoption. And then we would commit as a service provider, as a software provider, we're going to make sure that you have best in class. We're going to make sure that we're giving you real-time feedback based off of peer benchmarking, et cetera, et cetera. And then sure as heck, when we got to that point where they had 5% or 8% or 9% billable utilization, we revisited that. So it's not only measuring the time to first value, it's measuring the time to overall value and really driving that loyalty as well.
Awesome. You make such a great point about like the value that you perceive that you're giving isn't oftentimes the value that the customer is getting, or the value that they want. And so aligning on like, hey, what is the value the customer wants, and what is the value that we believe we're giving, and making sure that we're not kind of moving towards a goal that only matters to us. I could speak about this topic for a long, long time. I just want to be, we had 30 minutes here. I want to be courteous to the time of those participating. We, Sabina and I are happy to speak about this offline. You can reach out to us on LinkedIn. I'll give our team permission to share my cell phone number out there if you'd like to call me. I'd love to talk to anyone and everyone I can help. I'll leave it up to Sabina to define whether or not she just wants to give the 867-5309 number.
I do get that reference.
Yeah, exactly.
Jenny.
But we'd also like to just extend some incentives to those joining and those listening after this call. If you're curious about the quality of your onboarding experience, please reach out to us. You could scan this QR code to learn more, and there's a special incentive there that you can learn about that only people that listen to this webinar have joined will receive. I'll pause it there for like 5 seconds. And then on the growth molecule side, there's also a QR code you could scan that will give you a complimentary consultation session with Sabina, which I hope you all, after listening to this, will value that amount of time and just send her a $100 gift card after that, even though she'll never ask for it.
I would not, of course. Instead of my cell phone number, that is the link to my actual calendar. So book me. I'm happy to chat with you. It's something I also geek out about, as we would say. I could talk about it for hours, but I really want to listen and help.
Yeah. And I could attest to that. Sabina has jumped on the phone with countless customers of GUIDEcx, and is one of those people that just leans in and helps where needed and doesn't expect anything in return. So I appreciate you for being that person. Thank you so much for attending, everyone. We appreciate you being out in your companies doing amazing things every day, improving the lives of your customers, your employees, and those that you serve. Continue to do that. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.